Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Soul to Soul Connections with Jenny G. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Now, in order to catch the shows, make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel and my podcast. I'm all over social media. This will be on many other platforms. The links will be below in the description box. Now, also, if you feel you have an inspiring story or something you'd like to share with me and my viewers, by all means, send me a message. The best place realistically to send me a message to is through my website, soulworkwithjennyg.com, because on social media, you can send me messages, and social media has a time to hide messages. So if I don't get back to you, you know why. If you do want to book a clairvoyant psychic reading by me, book through my website as well. I'm all over social media. And we're going to have a little chat today with someone really special. I love talking to people, as you guys know, and I have a very special guest, and I'm going to welcome him right here. So please welcome my guest, Jason Janas. And thank you, Jason. I am so grateful and super excited to have you here with us. Thanks
Thank
for
you for
coming
having me.
on.
Thanks for having me. I'm truly honored, beyond blessed. Thank you, hon.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Now, Jason has had a near-death experience. So we're going to talk to you. I always say we're. People ask me why we're, because it's me, myself, and my guides and everyone in the spirit world. So I have a tendency of saying we and we're, just to let you know, for those of you who don't know me. So we're going to have a little chat with Jason right now about his experience and what has happened. So, Jason, what happened like with your near-death experience?
Wow, what a day that was. It was April 2nd of 2020. And prior to that, we were pulled aside at work and given meetings about this this virus coming out. And I was like, man, I'm 49 years old. Nothing's going to touch me. So a couple weeks later, I was feeling very, very tired during those 2 weeks. And I'm like, what is going on? I was waking up with the taste of blood in my mouth. And I was like, why am I so tired? I mean, I was just physically exhausted. And I come home April 2nd, really tired, was just kind of despondent, didn't care for my job much. And um, I made a very quick sandwich, sat down on the couch and started to eat. I took a bite, took another bite, and then I kind of what you call verp or threw up. And I'm like, but it was horrid. It was just wretched. Like, what was that? And then I went to take another bite and I coughed up bright red blood, pinker than my shirt. And I was like, and it kept coming. I kept coughing and coughing and coughing. Next thing I know, I have about an inch of blood that covered my plate. And I'm like, now I can't breathe. I began to wheeze like, but I'm trying to breathe. And I'm like, now panic is starting to set in because you think in your mind, this isn't normal. And I just remember getting up to walk to the kitchen. I remember looking outside and there was a woman walking her dog. And I knew at that moment I was dying. There was no way, there was no doubt about it. I made it to the sink and I had grabbed my phone and I kept up. And this time I'm just coughing up blood everywhere. Every second or two, I'm just coughing up blood. I'm frantically trying to get a hold of my ex-wife because she was a nurse. And I'm like, she's not going to answer the phone and I'm dying. I don't know what to do. And I'm just coughing. And finally, after like what seemed like an eternity, she answers the phone and she's like, what do you want? And I tried to talk to her. It was a FaceTime. And she's just looking at me and I just coughed. I mean, blood covered my phone. And she got really close to the phone and she called my name. And she said, Jason. I said, I'm sorry. I don't feel good. I'm going to go lie down. I said, and she instantly told me, Jason, if you lie down, you're going to die. Please don't lie down. And I'm like, for the first time in our relationship or knowing her, that I actually felt concern from her, true concern. And I said, I'm sorry to bother you. I'm going to go lay down. And she goes, Jason, please. Jason, listen to me, please. If you lie down, you're going to die. And I'm coughing up blood. She can see it. And I said, I don't. And click, phone went dead. And I'm like, wow, why couldn't any of our conversations be just like that? And next thing I know, I wake up in the hospital, arms and feet strapped to the bed. I couldn't move them more than an eighth of an inch. Stuff in my nose, tube down my throat, stuff in my carotid artery, which hurts. I was in so much pain by this time. It was unrelenting. It was unbearable pain. Um, and a myriad of doctors around me. Now it's dark. Now, what happened? I have no clue. I cannot tell you. All I remember was pitch dark. And I wake up, and again, a myriad of doctors. It's dark out. I'm in this room. There had to be 10 people around me, nurses and doctors. And I'm like, do you know who you are? And I'm like, how? And I'm just nodding up and down a little bit. And do you know who's president? And I'm like, yeah, at that moment, I really couldn't think. I'm trying to make sense of what had happened. The last moment I remember was talking to my ex-wife on the phone, and now I'm here. I mean, I can't move anything, and my whole body is lit up. I mean, like itching. You know, when you get an itch, you've got to scratch it. You put down whatever you're doing, and my whole body itched horrifically. And I'm trying to talk to these. I can't talk because I've got a 2-inch tube shoved down my throat, and all I hear is the machines beeping. I was on an ventilator, and I'm just trying to make sense of what is happening. And I finally like take my hand because it's oh, you know if we take your hands off, you're not gonna rip off. I'm like, and so they're watching me, like they have their hands right here, and I get a piece of paper, and I'm like, you itch, so I'm sitting here scratching, my everything itched. They loosened up my legs or took those off, and if they needed me to talk, I mean, it was terrible writing, I'm sure, but it was like, are you in pain? And I would write yes. Um, and I was on that ventilator for a month, which is truly horrific. I don't care what movie you watch on in Hollywood where they just bounce up right out of bed and start. Nah, no, there's none of that. But the most, I don't want to say magnificent, the most life changing event occurred. Now, what day it was, I always say April 2nd because that's when I went in.
Mhm.
But I don't know when it was. I was finally off the ventilator. I had woken up. They had taken all that stuff out. And by this time, I had lost 75 pounds. I was
Wow.
extremely lethargic. And just a quick background is I grew up Catholic. I grew up Christian from my grandparents. And I got my religious upbringing not only from them, but when I went to Catholic school for 2 years. I had the Bible shoved down my throat, period. CCD, you name it. I was a Catholic. And, when you're dying and and I didn't know that I was safe or whatever. Um, it was a late afternoon. Well, I'd say like maybe 3-ish, 4-ish. Beautiful sunny day out. My room was huge. But from the moment I got into that ICU, when those myriad of doctors, excuse me, were around me, up in the left-hand corner, there was a TV. And I didn't know it at the time, but I thought I was in the ICU, but that was full of dead people or dying people. They had me in the infectious disease room with other people dying. But from the moment I awoke in that ICU room, a myriad of doctors, I'm constantly looking off to the left up there because in that where that TV was, somebody was standing. There was somebody there, a presence there that I could feel. It was not a scary thing. It was a beautiful thing, a very comforting thing. And I wanted to go there. And I couldn't see anybody, but somebody was standing there. Somebody was very much there the entire time I was there. All right. And I want to make that clear. So at one point in time, one of the nurses came in and I was still on the ventilator. How long I was there, I don't know. Everything was a blur. But she's like, Jason, do you want me to turn the TV on? Because I'm staring at the TV, just staring at it. Like, I want to go there now. I want to be there. In the and I was like, how do you tell somebody's standing there? They're going to think you've lost your mind or you're nuts. And I said, I can't say something like that. There's somebody there. So back to being off the ventilator. I can't really move or raise my hand much. But you know, when you're dying, you know, when your time is there, I knew where I was going to go. I wasn't a good person my whole life. I did unspeakable things to people. I said unspeakable things. I had bisexual experiences when I was younger. From reading that Bible, I knew I was a worthless pile of garbage to my father, and I knew exactly where I was going to go. I outright rejected the Holy Spirit. Um, Again, going back to why I rejected the Holy Spirit was because when I was growing up, I was beaten from, I was abused. And I learned very quickly that God did not love me. He did not care about me. It was clear. And through the abuse, I tried to save my sister. Now, this is in the 70s. So when my sister was 3 years younger with me, I knew very well that I had to keep her safe, that I had to get her up and get her dressed, get her out of her jams, get her a bowl of cereal, and then we would go outside and play. Otherwise, I don't care if you wet the bed, shit the bed, whatever. You did not wake my mother up. If you woke her up, it was you got picked up by the hair of your head and you were beaten. And numerous times, alcoholics, was not a fun alcoholic. And that's all I'm going to say about it. It was a very rough childhood. So when my grandmother one summer got me up to go to church, I was about 7 or 8, and I kicked her and I said, "Don't you ever wake me up to go to church. Don't you ever wake me up." I said, "God doesn't love me. It's clear." And I said, "Don't you ever wake me up again. He hates me." And I said, "I'll do things on my own." And that was the last time I ever had a relationship with God. Now we're going to fast forward 42, 43 years now. Now I'm dying. And what do? I cry out to God. I got up on my elbows and I was shaking uncontrollably because I had no strength at all. I couldn't talk. I was hoarse because of the the tube in my throat. And I'm staring at the TV because that presence is there. And I began to sob, uncontrollably cry. And I said, and this is the first time since I was an 8-year-old boy that I cried out to God. And I said, "God, please, please don't let me die. Please, please." I said, "I'm sorry that I abandoned you and Jesus." I said, this is the Catholicism coming up. And I said, "I never stopped believing in you or Jesus." I said, "But I stopped having a relationship with you. Please let me see my children again. Please, please don't take them from me." And I said, "There's somebody here that I love. It's a twin flame. I didn't know it at the time. We can talk about it later. But I said, please don't take her from me. Please let me hold her hands. Let me kiss her. Let us have children together. Let us be intimate. Let's make love again." And in that moment, I was out of my body and I had 360-degree. I could see through the walls. I could see all 30 people, the in their rooms dying or on life support, and the nurses stations, which were kitty corner to each other on this oval floor. And I could see the nurses. And now, mind you, my presence, I'm still looking this way, but I can still see the gauges on the wall behind me. I can see everything. And I was ensconced in this most amazing love. It was as warm as the sun and the light. And I'm now at the top of the room looking down on this thing, which I had no love of or care of in any way, shape, or form, meant nothing to me. Now, everything that I just said, the kids and stuff that mattered not to me, meant nothing, because I knew everything in the world and everyone in the world was right exactly where they needed to be and going through what they needed to be going through, even if my children weren't with me or the woman that I loved. And I'm in constant this love and this light. And I instantly knew, instantly knew that it was Father in the corner of the room. I call God Father. It's a long explanation, but and it's because of this moment and the love that was bestowed upon me. There are simply no words in this archaic, barbaric language that we have created here on earth to anywhere remotely describe the love that is flowing through every part of my being. It's like being placed in the 20-foot deep river in this water, not flowing around you, but through you. And it was as warm as the sun. And I knew when I merged with that light that I became one with the Father. I became that light. I became that love. And as I'm still seeing my body laying down there, um, a thought began to emerge, and then it was spoken, and it was not spoken, but it was spoken in a way. I said, "I'm home," and I was just being adored by my father. My father was so happy to see me. The love flowing through me was just, I wish I could describe it to you. And I don't know how long this took. I was young again. I was invigorated. I was juiced. I was like, whoa, like I was plugged in. I was vibrating at such a high frequency. I was like, I was plugged into the universe's battery pack, but that was my natural state that I found out later, which was my true state of being. Excuse me. And I was young again. I felt like I was maybe 18 to 20, 21 years old. Um, and again, time ceased to exist. Time does not exist. So I could have been there 5 seconds or 5 years. I have no clue. But it was profound and it was the most loving experience. And then at some point in time, I recognized another energy coming towards me. It was this time I'm looking at like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, but this energy was coming straight towards me. And it was that of the being Yeshua, or as Jesus Christ. Um, and the love that he bestowed upon me, I can't even begin. It was the only way to accurately describe what was taking place was I was being stifled with love, so much love. That's like somebody going, and I mean, that's what it was like. It was so much love. Oh, I want to say almost too much, but that's not the case. It was just, I have never felt loved like that in my entire life. Never have I felt that loved, that wanted, and that needed. Not needed, but loved. And the next thought that came into my mind was, or I was beginning to think about it, was, oh, what a beautiful day to die. I mean, it was so nonchalant and so easy that I had done this thousands of times and come out 2 years later, I found out that I did. Um, and again, I don't know how long nothing was said other than me saying those things. And then I felt two very big hands on my soul gently lay me back down. And I felt my soul reattached to my body. And then I felt the hands on my body, which were huge and they were warm. They were so warm. I'll never forget how warm they were. And they gently laid me back down on the bed and I was out. I mean, out like a light. I woke up later and I woke up to frantic nurses, Jason, 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 Jason. And I'm like, what was that? What
Yeah.
was that about? And I knew what had happened. I'm like, and I told everybody, leave. You need to take I'm not taking any. I couldn't say. I'm like, no, out, out, out of the room. Get out now. And I was like, what was that?
Yeah.
That's not the place that I was expecting to go. God doesn't do that. God's not nice. He's evil. He's nasty. He's mean. And in that moment, I knew that I was viciously lied to about not only about heaven and hell, which hell does not exist, um, about who I truly was. And I was very mad. I was very angry at that. Um, being misled to think my whole life that I was unworthy, that I was just garbage, that my father hated me, and that I was destined to a place that does not exist. And after I got out of the hospital and learned how to walk, learned how to talk, learned how to eat, all of that good stuff, because I was basically a 49, I turned 50 when I got home. I was an invalid, basically, learning basic things again. Um, I was, again, very angry that I was lied to about what had taken place. And I said, I would not stand for this. I will not stand for what took place. And then for the confirmation about that, shortly after that, I talked to my priest and I went to church and I told him I had an experience in the hospital. And when I sat there, this is like a month later, and I'm still feeling the love of home, still feeling all of that. Thank God it wasn't a brutal transition, but it was still a transition that I had to deal with. And I sat there explaining this again, sobbing, and he was just like, for 40 minutes, horrified about what I'm telling him about my experience. And long story short, he blacklisted me. I was no longer allowed to come into that church or have anything to do with the congregation.
Wow.
I was blacklisted and shut out of the church. And it was my father that told me to go. He said, go to church. And I went, and there was the confirmation that I was looking for. So um, I was like, okay, now what do I do? And that was really the gist of my near death experience. It was the most profound experience of my life. I mean, it changed me in ways that I never thought would happen. And it's been 6 years, and I've gone through so many spiritual experiences now, out of body experiences. I've had 4 meetings with angels. I've had spiritual surgery. I've gone through my first awakening or my ascension in 2023, and followed by my first awakening hand in hand. And now my second awakening that I'm going through. It has been a brutal but amazing journey that I have gone on, and it's still continuing to this day. My last angel encounter was last October 3rd.
Who did you, what angel did you connect with? Do you remember?
It wasn't, they looked like ordinary people. This guy was from Argentina, and this was in, this is so in depth. I had my second angel encounter when I was still living in Wisconsin. And long story short, he was like, would you be willing to relocate to Sacramento? And I'm like, California? Oh, God. Sure. I mean, we can get into these encounters later, but now I'm in California and I've been living in my car because I had run out of money, no job, no nothing, just up and go kind of thing. So now I'm sitting there for like a month and a half in my car, and this angel encounter takes place. I get up to go to the bathroom. It's October 3rd. I was there since maybe mid-August, so not too bad. I get up and I walk into the store, and there's this guy, an older gentleman, staring at me, and he's just smiling at me like nobody else can see him. And hey, good morning. Now I passed him to go to the bathroom. Now when I got into the bathroom, he was in the bathroom lobby. How's that possible? He didn't pass me up walking. So I'm like, I smile at him. I'm going to the bathroom. Now he goes, I've gone to the sink for 2 months now to wash my hand. He's standing right next to me and he's just smiling, just looking at me, smiling. And I'm like, so I finished washing my hands. Now he's gone, and I pass him again in the lobby to go out. I said, what's going on? Something, I'm feeling something now. I can feel an energetic pull. I'm like, something's going on. And then I see him walk across the parking lot just staring at me. Like, what's going on? He gets in a car and he drives by and he pulls right next to me. He says, hey, I see the sign here, and he's got a thick Argentinian accent. He says, is it okay if I park here for longer than an hour? I said, I've been living here, pal, for 2 months. I said, nobody cares. And he knew everything about me. And we started talking, and he was like, he was reading my thoughts, meaning I was, my sexual energy was returning, and I was thinking about my twin flame, certain situations. And he says, hey, I have a girlfriend that likes certain things and she's very wealthy. She'll help you out. Would you like her? And I'm like, no, no. I said, no, there's somebody I love. And that was a relief to him. And we started talking. He goes, Jason, you are in alignment and you are powerful. You need to move now. Now I'm feeling really weird. I'm like, how the hell do you know my name? And we started talking, and he goes, Jason, you're not telling me anything I don't know. And I remember getting frustrated. I said, look out there. And he turns around, looks over his shoulder. See all those people? Those are me. That's me. See those people over there? That's me. And he goes, yes. And he said again, Jason, you are in alignment and you are powerful. You need to move. You are the light of the world. He said, somebody needs you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, go where? Who needs me? And he said it again one last time. He said, Jason, you are in alignment and you are powerful. You need to move. And he taught me something, which I haven't been able to do because of what I'm going through right now. This awakening is moving energy in my body, and parts of my body are really sore. So meditating, I can't sit anymore. Um, but once again, he said, you are the light of the world. And then he turned around and walked away and then disappeared. And then I moved back to Sacramento. All of a sudden, I got a job out of nowhere. They called me up, got this job. And then I go to do Next Level Soul. Alex called me. I went and did his show now, which was a phenomenal experience. Great show, great interview. On my way home, I had gotten an Uber. So he said, Jason, once again, it was a pleasure. Alex, thank you for having me on. It was truly an honor. Get into this car. It was a young black lady, really young, probably in her early 20s, doing Uber. And she goes, I was going to make fun of your name because of the Jason guy character. And I said, she goes, nah. We got in. And so what you doing here in Texas? I said, I came from Wisconsin. I had an interview. Yeah, interview for what? I said, oh, I died. I had a near-death experience. And we started talking and very intimately about things that had happened to me and stuff like that. We began to talk about her. And I just simply said, hon, I said, I love you very much. I said, you're beautiful, you're perfect, you're magnificent just the way you are. And she began to sob. And then she said, you don't know how much I need this.
Wow.
I was like, what did you say? She goes, you don't know how badly I needed this. Whoa,
Yeah.
whoa. And it dawned on me that this is the person that needed me,
Yeah.
needed this 15, 20-minute car ride. And she says, I need to hug you. Can I please hug you? And she's sobbing. And I said, well, of course. So we get there and she goes, again, you don't know how badly I needed this. So we get out and she hugged me like I was her one and only son. She bear hugged me and I gave her a kiss on the cheek and I said, you're going to be just fine. You're all right. And I said, I love you. Don't ever forget that. And I walked away. And to hear that from that angel saying somebody needs you
Yeah.
is one thing, but then to see it truly happen it's breathtaking, right? And I was like, wow. Then my job all of a sudden just let me go. I stayed 2 more months before my money ran out. And then this couple that have me here invited me here and got me an RV, and things have been going the way they should. I've completely surrendered. I've given up, as what we talked about earlier, all hope. And it's truly what needs to happen in these moments, that
Yeah.
we, as this species, we try and plan every part of our life. Get up, I'll have breakfast, I'll do this, I'll do that. And we came here for none of this stuff. And to try and control the outcome of your awakening is like trying to control the current of a raging river, which way you just can't. So when you can truly learn to put your foot all the way on the gas and let go of the steering wheel and truly believe that you're going to be right and end up right where you need to be, it's brutally hard to do.
Yeah.
And this is the biggest lesson that I've needed to learn in this. And that's where I'm at right now. As we spoke earlier, I have lost everything in my life. I've lost my children, my grandchildren. I've lost my job, my career. I've lost any hope of friends that I've ever had. Money, I'm destitute. I'm broke. I'm living in an RV in somebody's front yard, totally dependent on their love and affection for me. All my clothes, all my furniture, everything that I've ever owned in my life is now completely gone. And I, at times, it's very difficult for me. We spoke earlier. I've had a rough couple days,
Yeah,
because your mind or the ego, you truly want to call yourself a worthless pile of crap, that you should have listened to that. We don't need to actually do this. We can do this a different way. We can save this, or that's the ego talking, right? And when you truly, not necessarily kill the ego, but put the ego in a place where it loses its grip, because it's
yeah,
got nothing to hold on to anymore, because everything's been taken from it. So now your ego is what I call the spiritual ego, where it's now wanting to work with you. It's
yeah,
wanting to have that relationship with you. It's not that nasty ego controlling that I've got to get to the next goal line. I've got to get to the next performance. My progress bar isn't full enough. I need to go here. So when that is all stripped from you, when I mean stripped to the bone, where you have nothing anymore, not even your own dignity. Um, it's very hard. And
yeah. But it's like you're getting tested right now in a way. However, it's like right now it's you're where you're supposed to be. If
right,
you look at, even like the teachings of Jesus and everything, it's all about faith and surrender. As we talked about even earlier, I we do what we do no matter if we have a mansion or if we're living in an RV, and we have that hope and that faith that everything is going to work out as is, and we surrender. I surrender absolutely everything, absolutely everything. And I have seen miracles. I could go on and tell you many stories about the many miracles that have happened even to myself, even throughout my near-death experiences as well. And it's like you're where you're supposed to be because you're walking towards greatness. So
yes,
look at how, your story even right now. Yeah, I'm in an RV and everything like that. So if you take a look at someone who's going to tune in and watch that, they're going to be like, oh my God, I was the same thing. I was like homeless or living in wherever. And look at Jason, look what happened to him and look at where he went from this moment on. It's going to give somebody that hope and that faith because
yeah,
of your story that you're sharing. So that's why I believe, like, even our experiences that we go through, it's like somebody can throw me some experience they've been through, and I can tell you one thing, I've already put up my hand and said, you know what, I've been there. I
right,
can tell you horrific stories and situations I've been through. And we go through those situations to help others
that's
deal
right,
with their situation.
right.
So you're sitting on that rebirth throne to where the spirit world is going to be bringing you towards.
I've had so many since my near death. I've had, like I said, I've had two profound out of body experiences. I've had four massively beautiful, vivid dreams, lucid dreams, spiritual surgery. And again, four angel encounters. I just told you about the fourth one, and they've been happening pretty consistently throughout. Um, my first out of body experience was 2 years after. You don't mind me talking about this, do you?
Oh,
Okay. So my first out of body experience was 2 years in 2022, and it was immediately followed that year, by my first angel visit. Was I had this most profound experience, and a couple days prior to this, as I was waking up, I felt somebody get off the corner of my bed. Now I've been alone by this time for 5 years, and I turned over to look. When somebody gets off your bed, you can feel somebody getting out of the bed, and I
yeah,
looked over, and there was nobody there. Now 2 or 3 days later, I woke up very emotional. I'm still feeling Father. I'm still feeling the love, and like a 2 year old pouting, why did you keep me in the ICU room? Why couldn't I go through the tunnel and go home? Why
yeah,
was I kept there? Right. I mean, so I'm having this profound experience, and um, I have this I was kind of yipping at him a little bit. So I got up, walked down the hall to the bed, and before I even laid my head down, I was pulled out of my body at the speed of light. Everything went black, and I was what we now call the void. And yeah, I mean, when I say blackness, it's a blackness like you cannot even possibly imagine. Now I'm being pulled through this tunnel so fast at like the speed of light. And all of a sudden white light, not white light, but grayish white light started oscillating through it. And I was like, I'm feeling this love again. And I'm way out in the distance. I mean, way out. And now I could actually measure it. It was a little sliver of light, about an eighth of an inch long. And if you know what an eighth of an inch, it's tiny, or a 16th. And I can see this. And I'm like, oh, he heard me. I'm going home. Right. And now I wasn't filled with demons. I was just filled with love. And I didn't see anything. And I mean, we're just talking blackness. Through this tunnel, I can see this pinpoint of light. Now, again, time ceased to exist. There's no such thing as time. And I'm traveling through how long? I have no clue. Now, next thing I know, now the sliver is getting, and now it's like this big. And I'm like, oh, I'm going home. This is great. I'm going home. And going and going. And now this light is all around me. This, like the light in your screen back there, this most beautiful, magnificent golden white light. And I knew what that was. That was heaven, home. And I got right up to it. I'm talking a nose hair away. And I was pulled back into my body. And I was like, no, right? And I'm like, but I didn't care. I sat up and I was like, he heard me. And if I would have crossed into that light, ladies and gentlemen, that would have been the death of the body. I, if I would have crossed into home, the body would have died instantly. It would have just died. Um, so that was my first encounter. But I do want to mention something significant because this is when God spoke to me. I was struggling. This was 2 months after my NDE. And I was having a very rough day. Unemployed, eviction notices, no food, really not eating much, stressing out. And I'm giving father the business. Say, look, pal, you chose the wrong person because the Catholic upbringing. Now the guilt is just riddled. I'm riddled with guilt. And I'm just really giving him the works. Say, listen, for a good 20 minutes. And I got in my bedroom and I said it one last time. Look, you should have picked the Pope. You should have picked the bishop. You should have picked somebody worthwhile. You picked the wrong person. I'm yelling at him. And this is when God spoke to me. He said, with a little bit of sternness, but so much love, he said, why not? You are my son. It was at that moment I was at the end of my bed and I collapsed. And where this came from, I have no idea, but I still say it today. I dropped to my knees, and again, I'm crying. And I said, for all that I am you, meaning acknowledging that I am God. And that was a profound statement for me because I also realized what my brother said 2 millennia ago: I and the Father are one, that there is no separation between any of us or between God and us. And it was that acknowledgement that really propelled me down this journey because not only did I forgive myself for thinking I was unworthy of being loved or I was disgusting to my father or to anyone on this planet, is that was the moment I truly began to love and adore myself without question. If somebody says, Jason, who do you love the most in this world? Me. I come first.
Yeah.
And that's that. So that was a profound moment. And then, of course, I had that first out of body experience. And now, a few months later, I was in work and it was November. So we went from summer to a few months. I was in a big building all alone, 500,000 square feet. And I had keys to all the locked doors. I'm walking through. And again, everything, my near death experience, still in my head as it is every day. And I came in from a locked door and I walked this way to another door, opened it up, then I turned around and then somebody was standing there. And I jumped and I'm like, hey, I'm like, how did you get here? and he's all ratty clothes. And I don't normally say this, but he was a breathtakingly beautiful man, very square. And this is why I call him, where my one of my guides is Archangel Michael. He had this very square jaw, beautifully beard, but it was brown, like a haircut, very well trimmed, very, very short, just ratty work clothes. And he said, I'm just going in there. And we walked in there, and I don't know how this started, but started talking to him about my near death experience and the love that I was experiencing. But he was pointing his head up and he was just smiling. I could just see his teeth. I'm speaking of this love. And then he walked this way a little bit, and I began speaking more. And he was just up there smiling, and he just came down looking at me. He put out his hand to shake my hand, and he goes, "Your name is Jason, right?" And I'm like, "Whoa."
Yeah.
Uh, I didn't tell you my name. And when he squeezed my hand to shake my hand, he could have crushed it into dust. He could have, I mean, I have never felt strength like that in my entire life. And he said, "Jason, it's a pleasure to meet you." And as he turned to walk away, he looked over his shoulder. He goes, "Jason, you'll hear from me again soon."
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And I was like, "Wait a minute, who are you?" And I went to go out the door. No one's there. No one's there. No sound, no smell. His hand was as cold as ice, meaning there was no blood in it. So I was like, and I felt all of a sudden like I was completely tired. I slept on the job. I went and slept for 2 hours on the sofa. I was out. And I'm like, what was that? And then all of a sudden I realized, I looked at a picture. Now, do we really know it's Archangel? But for most pictures, it looked like Archangel Michael. All right. That was in 2022. 6 months later, in 23, I had another meeting, and I was coming out of sushi with somebody, and there was a bum sitting by the back of my Jeep. And I was like, the person was with me. She was like, "Don't go talk to him." And I'm like, "No, no." And he, he says, "You like video games." And I'm like, "What the hell do you, who?" And he started talking about, "You really love video games and this, that, and the other." And he said, "Well, I'm here in Wisconsin because I'm going up to Oconomowoc, and this is where we were going to move together with." And she looked at me, and he says, and then he looked straight at her. He goes, "I'm here to help a woman get a divorce." Well, she was going through a divorce or getting a divorce. And he looked straight at her, and she went white because he was talking about things that there was no way someone like him could know, because it was between her and I. She grabbed my car key and ran into the Jeep and locked the door. And I'm sitting there talking, and he goes, "It's really about the love." And he went to give me a fist bump, and I'm like, and we started talking. He goes, "It's really about the love." And I didn't do anything. And then the third time he did it, I gave him a fist bump. And again, his hand was cold. And I'm like, I go, "Yes, it really is about love. Love is the only thing that matters." I said, "I had a near death experience 3 years ago." And he stopped smiling, and he turned his head sideways. He goes, "I know you did."
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
what? And I'm feeling that energetic pull again. And now this time he looks exactly the same as the guy in the bathroom, except his hair is dark red, same beard, red, same color hair, just different ratty clothes, pretending to be a bum. So I freaked out. I turned around to see if she was okay. He went from sitting on the ground to standing in front of me now. And I'm like, whoa. And he says, "Your name is Jason, right?" And I'm like, okay, what is going on? I'm okay. And he said, "Would you walk with me?" And he said, "I'm here in Wisconsin because I'm an alcoholic." And he said, I said, "So I'm sorry." He said, "Yeah, last month I drank 110,000." I said, "You drank $110,000 worth of alcohol?" And I mean, dude, you don't stink. For a bum, there's no smell to you, because he's wearing all kinds of ratty clothes. "Would you help me walk?" So I grabbed his cane and his bag, and I gave him the cane, and we started to walk. And now he was walking in front of me, and he said, "Would you be okay with that?" And I said, "Okay with what? Making $110,000 a month?"
Yeah.
I, I'm barely making 30,000. Yeah. He says, great. And he said, would you be willing to relocate? And I said, for that kind of money? Sure. And he goes, and I said, great. And he goes, I said, where? He goes, and I remember him humming. He goes, hmm. He goes, how about Sacramento? And he looks at me and I'm like, oh, California, why? Sure, for that kind of money. Great, walk with me. So I get him into this restaurant because he wanted a drink. And we had a conversation. And he said, I said, it was a pleasure meeting you. He said, Jason, you'll hear from me again. And I'm like, have a great day. And I'm feeling energetic loss. So as I'm walking out the restaurant, I turn around and said, no, come on. I turn around and I left him at the bar. There's nobody there. He's not there, just the other people around. Okay. So how is that possible?
Yeah.
Now, a few months later, in 2024, I had another angel encounter. I was going for Easter dinner because I don't believe in holidays. I don't believe in Easter. I don't believe in all that Catholic crap anymore. It's garbage. It's lies. I said, I'm going to go make a good meal. I walk in and I instantly notice a mom and a young girl. The young girl was in the shopping cart and she was having a little fuss fit, but I was just drawn to them. Something said they were off. They didn't look at me. They didn't acknowledge me. And I walked in. It's kind of odd. And I was picking up my stuff and I went into the olive oil aisle because I began to eat healthier. And I was like, why can't I find the olive oil? And I got into like a football stance, a linebacker. I'm like, why can't I find it? And all of a sudden I see this black mass. Now I'm about 15, 20 feet in the aisle. Walk right by me, right by my shoulder here. Whoop, and I'm like, he walked right through the groceries. I'm like, he goes, hey, can I interest? And now this one was different. He was very young. I could say maybe 22 or 23. He had a scraggly goatee, leather jacket on, and pants. And he says, can I interest you in a Bible study? I said, oh. And I look over, it's like, how the hell did you walk through the groceries? And I'm like, and now all of a sudden we're having this conversation. There's the mom and the child in the shopping cart right behind him, right in front of me. But this time they're just like motionless, no movement, no nothing. And we're having this powwow about the Bible. And I said, young man, I said, no. I said, the Bible is garbage. I said, I have no interest in it. I thank you for approaching me. I said, but the Bible was written by man. It has nothing to do with God. It has nothing to do with anything. I said, but power and control. I don't want it. Now, after about 20 minutes, we're talking, he moves to the left. That woman and child in the shopping cart, they're gone. Just gone. No cart movement, just gone. And we're sitting over there, and he says, well, what about the second coming of Christ? And I was like, I said, there is going to be no second coming of Christ, and not in the way that you or the Bible says. I said, so no, I'm not interested, young man. I said, but the second coming of Christ, I said, Jesus will never walk this earth again. He is not coming. We don't need to be saved. I said, so no, I'm not interested. Thank you. I wasn't mean to him. I was a little stern with him, but I said no. And this was a test that I found out that I put together later. And he shook my hand again. And guess what? There's no warmth to that hand. And now you know how long grocery aisles are. They're long. Okay. I'm only 15 feet in. He went the opposite way, which is a much longer. So I went back to looking at it. I said, no, I got to look. And I turned around. No one there.
Mm. Yeah.
Okay. So, and then you know about the fourth one that I explained earlier when I was in Sacramento. So that second one is the one that put me in Sacramento when he said, would you be willing to go? Because about 4 months prior to me leaving Wisconsin, maybe about 6 months, I walked in from work and my house was ransacked. My apartment was ransacked. My couch was disheveled, blankets, pillows thrown on the floor, all the lights were turned on, my computer chair was pulled out facing the way, my all the lights were on. And anybody knows that I get up early in the morning at that time and I would meditate at like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. I take a shower in the dark. Everything was dark. I made my bed, everything. My kitchen lights were on, and I'm like frozen. Nothing was stolen. Brand new computer, my snake. I had an iPad right next to me. That's $2,000. And I walked down the hall. I turned on the light. The second bedroom bed was completely torn apart, all the sheets and stuff thrown on the floor, all the pillows. I walked into my room. My bed was now unmade, pillows scattered all over the place. My light was on, and I'm feeling my heart's like, like, what is going on? Well, later again, that was my spirit guides and team trashing my house, telling me that your life is about to become completely destroyed and disheveled. It's going to be turned upside down. And lo and behold, this is exactly what I've been going through. In 2023, I began my first ascension, my awakening into the 5D, which was brutal,
Yeah.
beyond brutal. And now I'm in what you call the second awakening. And I hate calling that because it's like a spiritual book or a spiritual,
Yeah.
something that they can preach and hold on to when it's truly a remembering of who you are, that your life, that your persona that you built from the time you came out of mom, your identity that you call Jason Janas or you Jenny,
Yeah.
that we were given before we were born. You've attached yourself to that identity. It's like you've identified with the reflection in your mirror. Okay. Or same thing if you've had a nightmare or a dream. You've attached yourself to the character in your dream. Same thing, that's what's taking place here. I've throughout my whole life, and what my near-death experience showed me is that I attached myself to a character that doesn't exist.
Mhm.
Jason Janas doesn't exist. He never has existed. But we've built that persona through the ego, and we've maintained it so thoroughly because that's what we were taught by mom and dad. You knew right away when you walked into a room, oh, mom's a man. I need to act this way. You knew how to identify and subtract things from your life so you could fit in, how to act, how to talk to coworkers, how whatever. Same thing in high school, same thing through college, same thing in the workforce. We began to dismantle very important things in our lives and throw them in the darkness because they didn't fit into what society deemed as acceptable. And what is taking place now is all of that has been destroyed. My ego is destroyed and gone
Yeah.
or upgraded. And this remembering or awakening is just that, the destruction of the persona, that identity that I've built for most all of my life ended in my near death experience and has been completely and systematically being stripped away from me um, during these last 6 years with all these experiences. So um, people say, well, I want a near death experience. No, you don't. You have no idea what comes with it because your
Yeah.
life forever
100%.
changed. Okay. You just
100%.
don't have a near death experience. You know
Yeah.
that you have these awakenings. You know you have these ascensions. You know that once you cross that threshold, oh shit, you go to turn around and grab that doorknob. There's no doorknob. There's no stopping the process. So
Yeah.
once this starts, and millions of us across the planet are going through this right now, it's very it's tough. It's demanding because it strips you of everything you've ever known. And your friends, your family, and they think something's horribly wrong with you. Like you
Yep.
need to go see a doctor. There's
Yep.
something wrong with you. You need to medicate yourself. You need to get
Yep.
back to normal. And you're saying, no, I feel more normal than I ever
Yeah.
had my entire life, and I'm not. So you lose everything in your life, everything, not just material things, but friends, family, children. They all go because this version of yourself that you are stepping into is the greatest thing that you will ever do. And
Yeah.
the greatest thing you can ever do to yourself is becoming who you truly are, who you were truly meant to be. And that is what's taking place right now with me and
Yeah.
with others, you and it's at the same time it's depressing because you've lost everything. Everything that you've held your hat on for all these years is gone. And the new you hasn't arrived yet. So you're in this limbo state. This society doesn't have, especially here or anywhere around the world, society doesn't have a place for being productive by doing nothing. Society says you need to get up and go to work. You need to put the band-aid on. You need to just suck it up and deal with it. And God's saying, no, you don't. No, this is right where you need to be. It's like when you plant a garden and you plant that seed underground, you don't know the profound transformation that's taking place. You don't rush to the garden and dig up the seed every day. Come on, come on, come on. Well, that's what's happening with us. That seed has no idea what's taking place. It begins to vibrate. That shell begins to crack open. That embryo begins to grow. And next thing you know, painfully, the roots shoot down into utter darkness.
Yeah.
And that shoot that is about to rise has no idea that sunlight even exists, but yet it still continues to move through this process. And that's what's taking place here.
Yeah.
And when you can truly understand that, you're still going to have good days and bad days. You still have to surrender. You still have to let go of that steering wheel and say, what Jesus said is have faith. Can you
Yeah.
imagine those that you have seen what has taken place? Can you imagine those that will never see? Can you
Yeah.
imagine the struggles they face? And that's faith, is believing that you are meant for something far more. And when this process starts, that this version of you is going to take shape. So, I've died over 3,200 times in
Yeah.
my second out of body experience, which I'll touch on pretty quick, and then I'll leave it to you. Is that took place in early of 2023, during a football game when a Buffalo Bill, I don't know, he tackled somebody and he died on the field, and I was pulled out of my body at that moment, and I was on this beautiful planet. I saw a light being walking towards me, towards the shore. There was a magnificent ocean, looked like Star Wars, a sun here and a sun here, and there was somebody next to me, and I'm like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I'm Jeffrey. I've always been with you." I started laughing. I said, "Jeffrey, that's a Toys R Us giraffe, man. I can't call you Jeffrey." And I said, "How about John?" But then I call him Jeffrey anyway. Now this light being is walking towards me. It's getting much closer. Now, did I have fear? No. I felt love, and I felt like whoever's walking towards me, I knew who they were,
Yeah.
even though they were just a blob of white. I said, "Jeffrey, how many times have I died? How many times have I been here?" And the number was instantly given to me. It was over 3,200 times. I said, "I've died over 3,200 times." And he said, "Yes, you're ancient." And then I was sucked back into my body. The TV was black, meaning the football game was over. So I was gone for a significant amount. I don't like using the word time because it doesn't exist, but for this, I was gone probably well over an hour that this took place. And I mean, I've gone through so many spiritual experiences since this, and they just keep happening. So
Whenever you met like Jeffrey, did you feel I know him somehow, but I
absolutely,
can't. Yeah.
absolutely. Yep, there was an absolute knowing that what he said was true, that he was always with me. So the meaning, when Father created me, Jeffrey was assigned to me.
Yeah.
Like we have guardian angels and we have an archangel. So when I
Yeah.
say Archangel Michael, they will never leave your side for your entire. Well, we're eternal, so they will never leave you. They're part of your. When you go to create your incarnations in your lives, they're there with you and they work on your life with you. So I felt that I had known him, as he said, he's always been with me. So
Yeah.
it was a very comforting, loving feeling. So
Yeah. But can you like understand why this happened to you? Like, are you glad that, wow, I'm really grateful that I had this experience and continuingly have these experiences because it's only just going to continue, you
I
know?
think I think they will continue. But
Yes,
one
they
thing
will.
that I want people to understand that I got caught up in this is you begin to feel special. And I need each and every one of you listening to this right here, right now. None of you are special. I'm not special. Jesus wasn't special. None of us are special. We are all one. There's no difference between any of us. But you start to feel that ego like, oh, I had a near death experience. I had my ascension. I had my spiritual awakening. You start to have that. And when I realized what was happening through this second ascension, that all disappeared. That went, that was gone. That got stripped from me. Um, and now am I glad that I had that? Yes, because when you have a near-death experience and you have these experiences, I went from being a warehouse worker and logistics and just a blue-collar worker to now I want to um, be a benefit to society, be a benefit to this species, to help this species. And I said, I will become a teacher. I will teach the truth of what my brother, not only my near death experience, but what Jesus was truly teaching 2,000 years ago. And that's what my YouTube channel is about. That's what my website is about. And yes, I don't want to say I feel special, but I am beyond grateful that they have
Yeah.
happened and that they continue to happen because they continue to shape my life. The more I have these experiences, the more profound knowledge and wisdom that I am gaining, that I'm able to help others that are possibly going through this, that may see this video and go, wow,
Yeah.
he's going through what I'm, or he's gone through what I am going through. And they're able to feel like they're not crazy, that they're not, that, that they haven't lost their mind, because society in this world will tell you that's exactly what you've done. You need help. You need to be fixed somehow. So I am profoundly grateful that
Yeah.
this has happened to me without question. And I know
Exactly.
more is coming. And people said that, this isn't going to stop, Jason. This is more is coming towards you. Like we discussed earlier, that, bigger, whether you receive that or can sense it in me, that something grander is coming. Um, you know, um,
Yeah.
I've just relinquished control. I know when I say I don't care, I do, but when I mean I don't care, it's just I
I
don't try
know.
to plan the day. I don't, well, I'll get it through this way. This is the way it's going to come. I don't care anymore. When it comes, it comes. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. You surrender.
That's
That
it.
that's why I
Surrender.
always that's why I always say I work, like have goals, dreams, all of those things, and I surrender it. I
Yeah.
just surrender it.
Yep.
It's like even when we have the roadblocks and we get stuck, it's like, okay, well, maybe it's not the right timing, or maybe I'm not supposed to go in that direction. So I'm going to surrender it completely and utterly. And when we
Right.
surrender, when we surrender, that's when, I always say, oh, our guides and everybody's looking down on us. Oh, finally, they're getting it. They're surrendering. Okay,
Right.
now we step in, right?
Right. They're not trying to control their life anymore.
No.
What I say
Yeah.
is let life live you. You're
Yeah.
not living life. You
Yeah.
understand that, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Your life is not happening to you. Life is being done by
Yeah.
you. Let life live you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Surrender. Because truly, ladies and gentlemen, you are not in control. You may think you are, but you're not. Your soul knows exactly where you need to be at any point in time,
Yeah.
anywhere on this planet, and your soul will put you there. Experiences will happen, events will happen, and you will be right where you need to be. So me being in this situation right now is right exactly where I need to be, and I've
Yes.
surrendered that. So,
Yeah. 100%.
you
Well,
know,
like it's just so amazing chatting with you, Jason. Like, oh my gosh, like I could so very easily talk to you for hours and hours and hours. So if if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to reach out to you?
through my website, loveandlightjason.com, they can schedule a one-on-one with me, but there's also an email address, loveandlightjason@gmail.com. But I also have my YouTube channel,
Yes,
which is Love and Light Jason. So there's numerous ways that they would be able to reach out and touch and contact me. And I'd be happy to speak with any of you.
that's amazing. That's amazing. So one last thing.
Yeah.
Even though we've talked about it many times, if someone says to you, I don't believe in God, what would you say?
That's okay. God believes in you and you are
Wow,
God. So that's okay.
that's perfect. That's so awesome. That's the most simplest explanation, and it's so true.
It is.
It,
Until
it's
you can all realize that you are one with the Father. Let me say one more thing before I go, because this is very important, where a lot of you get stuck, especially with the Bible. When Jesus spoke, not just in front of his disciples, he said it out in public around his disciples. But when he said, I and the Father are one, Jesus was not just speaking about himself. He was talking about all of you and all of the people around him at the time. He led by example. He taught by example. He healed by example. So when he said, I and the Father are one, it wasn't just about himself. So when everybody picked up stones to stone him, he said, which of the good works from the Father am I to be stoned? And they said, for your good works, not. But you, being a man, make yourself God. Now listen to his response, okay? Because it's epic. He said, isn't it written in your laws? I said, ye are gods. Then how can you say I blaspheme because I say I am a son of God? And they dropped the stones to stone him. Christianity wasn't formed 2,000 years ago. That came from ancient Aramaic law, that we are all one with the Father. Ladies and gentlemen, you are all God.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
God
that
comes through all
simple.
of us.
We are all one with the Father. There is no separation between you and I, and there is absolutely no separation between you and your Father. You have simply forgotten who you are. And why you come into this incarnation and continue to is to have what I have had, what Jenny have had, to awaken, to remember who you are. And that is to know that I am God.
Yeah. And even like the coming of Christ type thing. How I view that myself is Christ comes through us all, especially, this is one of the reasons out of many why I do near death interviews, because your experiences are giving others faith and hope and to
Yes.
not be scared. It's like fear is an illusion.
Yes, fear is, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Father,
So it's,
two things Father said. One, we are to fear nothing. There is
yeah,
nothing to fear.
yeah,
Second is we are to need nothing. We have everything we need.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely, 100%. Wow, this was awesome, Jason. Like, as I said, I could go on for hours. I could
I know I could too. I could teach for hours. I love
very easily could go on and talk to you for hours and such. And thank you again, for coming
absolutely. It was
onto
an
the
honor.
show, and I just want to thank everyone else, of course, who's tuned in, and make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and my podcast and so on. And if you have a story you'd like to share or something you'd like to talk about, reach out to my website is the best betsoulworkwithjennig.com. And again, I'm so truly grateful for sharing and spending some time with Jason. And I'm sure many others are going to just be like, wow, over your story. Thank you so much again.
Absolutely. Again, it was an honor and a privilege. Thank you. I'm beyond grateful. Thank
Oh,
you.
you're very welcome. You're very welcome. you know. So thanks again. And until next time, you guys, make sure you tune in to Soul Connections with Jenny G. Namaste.